Okay, so today we are so excited to have our friend Consuela Marshall with us, who has quite the confession, ladies. She'll be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to caregiving. We can all relate. So, like all of us, Consuela has been a caregiver, but honestly, she's so much more than that. So, Jay, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about our sister in care?
I would like to call her the sister in crime as well.
So. Oh, I love it.
I'll take that.
So Consuela, she has so many facets in caregiving. So professionally, she has been an occupational therapist with the same agency for 20 years. She says she loves her community, and she has so many clients over and over again with different illnesses. Yeah. What is fantastic is when she says she sees them in grocery stores, she sees their families in stores, she sees them in church, and she loves that connection, which I love about you. Consuela, she lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So she's a true Southerner. She's married. She says she's married and loving it.
Oh, wow. Are you newly married?
She's got 3 kids. She's got 4 grands. She loves running, dancing, outdoors, gardening, plants, nature. And Natalie, she is your heart child because she hates cooking.
Oh,
She's got 6 sisters and 1 brother, but 6 sisters just about killed me.
Wow.
But Consuela, you became a caregiver. You've always been a caregiver, but when your mom, her health started to decline, and after a stroke, she stayed with you 6 weeks. She eventually moved in, and
don't give it all away.
Well, I know that, but these are the things that really hit me. This is what we really want to hear from you, because this is a confession. You said it was a struggle for her to adjust. And that struggle is for you and her. And this was the part, and this is definitely the meat where we want to get you to. It honestly, it was not all her fault because we were too much alike. So, Natalie, you said, Consuela, we did have some good times, but mostly sometimes that was few and far between. And so that's a lot of us. So, Consuela, we know that your story is going to touch a lot of ours and our listeners, and we can't wait to hear from you, girl. So, so kind of, we talked about you and how you got to where you are today. So tell us a little bit about that past. Tell us, how you got started in caregiving and just get us going.
Do it, girl.
Well, thank you for summing me up. That's about it.
Hates cooking.
Caregiving intersects so many things. And in that story, I with every point, I could have went off in 100 directions of how life intersects so many ways along the path, and how we circle back around through certain things. And it's been quite the journey that I didn't even know I knew I was on it, but I didn't expect the turns. I didn't expect the scenery. I didn't expect the rocky roads on the course. I definitely didn't expect that. I think I was looking at it with more rosy eyes, and it wasn't that way. So, in regard to my mom, I'm going to back up a little bit, because I will just add that I do have a daughter with a disability. And it's just something I don't add to finding a foothold, but it is definitely a part of my life, in that it also formed who I am. And adding that into the picture of all the other things that I do, it really just helped to mold my heart and fashion my heart to really want to help people who are at a disadvantage. And when it's your mom, you definitely want to come to her rescue and say, oh, I definitely want to help her. And often seeing that it's never often a lot initially. It's just learning how to fit into that. And then it's just ride the waves of caregiving is what I try to look at, is how am I going to enter into that role and how to manage those ebbs and flows of caregiving is what is really the whole premise of caregiving is how do you navigate and how do you stay afloat in the ups and the downs of caregiving. So in helping me to do that, I have to pull from all of those aspects of my life.
Yeah.
Even before, I mean, where being a therapist really started with seeing my daughter having therapy. And it's like, I can do that. I love that.
Wow.
And then years later, just seeing how everything that you see as a challenge can really be overcome with little bitty steps that you make.
Yeah.
Or it's just little shifts in your balance that keep you afloat versus you're falling over the edge and then you're drowning.
Yeah.
And how to make those shifts as you're going through caregiving is really the key.
Yeah.
It really is and it's so hard to do it when it's your parent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would, and look, for me, in going into homes, and I'm like, hi, I'm Consuela, I'm the therapist. How are you doing? And I'm doing home health. I had on a different set of eyes that were they were very blinded. There was, I was very limited on what I was seeing.
Is that because you got to leave? Like you went in and you were like, okay, I
got to see the good parent who was on their best behavior while I was
Girl,
yes. Yes.
All of us are like, yes, because they were on their best behavior.
And I would say that daughter is so mean to her mom. Like,
no.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, my mom took my schooling. I got a PhD, and my mom's first name is Pinky. So that Pinky, I'm telling you, they gave me the PhD in being a therapist because it was that component of knowing her and knowing how to deal with someone who knows you personally, who knows how to push all of your buttons.
Consuela.
Who knows how
preach.
That made me such a much more well-rounded therapist. I think my therapy really started when I became my mom's caregiver.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
took it from another. I was always empathetic with caregivers because I do remember, even just in regards to my daughter, how it feels to be isolated when other people get to do everything or other people get to do stuff. And then, it's not like she couldn't do it. I mean, we did a lot of things, but I always had a compassion in my heart for caregivers, but not like it took that turn when it was now my mom and I was the caregiver, and having to restructure how I looked at caregiving and how I just had more empathy for that person who is caring for that one, because you're dealing with more than just that physical aspect of caring for them. You're also having to deal with so much background noise, so much things from the past that filter into the caregiving that make it so much more complicated than just putting your hands on a person and doing a task. It is, it could be the simplest task and you were going to do it anyway, but just because they said it in a different tone.
Ooh,
Consuela, you're speaking my language.
Well, and that was the things I had to deal with in caregiving, is how to tamper myself, how to get myself under control while I'm caring for my mom, because bottom line was I never not wanted to do it. There was never a moment that I didn't care for my mom. I can honestly say there was periods I did not like my mom because the tension was so hot, was just so tremendous. Because I'm going to start this by saying that she did not want me to be her caregiver. And that's the whole, and then I find it the flip of what a lot of people tell me, like, they don't want to be a caregiver. I didn't ask for this. I didn't sign up for it. I knew in my heart that it was going to be me. I knew
out of all your siblings, because you've got
my sisters, I knew it, because for some reason they thought I knew it all. I'm like, I don't know it all, but they knew I had an advantage because being a therapist, that I would be a better person to do it. No one ever spoke it. I just knew it would be me because they always looked to me for answers. So I just sort of knew when the time came that it would be me, that I would care for my mom.
Now you lived farther away from your mom, right?
Yeah, I lived 4 hours away from my mom.
Yeah. So you were a long distance caregiver for a window of time, whereas your siblings who lived closer, is that right?
Yeah, they were direct hands-on.
Okay.
They were there they were there. And my mom was intact cognitively.
Yeah.
Set in her ways. We've lived in the same house since I was in the 4th grade, that she was still in that same house. That wasn't functional for her. I mean, luckily it was an older house with large doors and hardwood floors.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was still the yellow bathroom with the yellow tub and the yellow toilet and the yellow sink that she just adored.
Preach.
The linoleum floor in the bathroom. That is nothing wrong with I think the floor was linoleum yellow too.
Yeah.
And that was just our house. And it was just not conducive for her to be there by herself. And, but she fought it, and we allowed her to be there. And she had the right to be there, but it made it difficult. And it wasn't safe because it was a multi-level. It wasn't like a 2-story, but it was a split floor plan where you can go down to a couple of bedrooms, come up 4 steps, and you're at another bedrooms. But it was where she wanted to live, and it just became difficult for them. But look, they managed. And I'm going to honestly say, I didn't do a lot in that. They would just call me whenever she fell. But other than that, they handled the meds, the doctors. And my mom hid so much. My mom even though they lived in the same city, they really didn't know a lot. My mom didn't drive, but she would call a taxi to take her to the doctor. She would get the man next door who had he was an Uber before there was an Uber service that would, pay him a couple of dollars and I'll take you to the store type of thing.
Wow.
And my mom just tried. She was holding on to her independence, and she was doing things the best that she could. But when it wasn't holding together anymore, and my sisters were starting to help out. But the more they did, the more my mom undid. And I just was back in the background, not really knowing any of this. I was just living my life, working, seeing home health patients, and just being grateful. Oh, my mom still lives by herself. Thank God for that. But didn't know my mom's life was just crumbling. Because on the visits that I would make, I didn't see everything. It's funny how you can be a therapist and I can walk into everybody's house and I can see, okay, I see some things I need to slowly start to approach with them after I'm here for a while and get the rapport with them. And I have my little strategy when I'm in a patient's house. I don't ever go in and say, oh Lord, why is, you do this or do that. I just sort of, I'm eyeballing and I'm just in a generality saying, I do see some concerns, but look, I'm going to mention this one because I really think we need to address this. This needs to be my first goal for you, but then I'm already seeing there's tons of things, but can't go there yet. But in my mom's house, I couldn't really do that. I don't know. I would just come in and plop on that sofa that we've had for years. And tall as I am, I was having a hard time getting off. I mean, I was just like trying to get off of it, but that was our sofa. I mean, I never even saw that I struggled because that's just the way I sit on that sofa, on that corner. And
isn't that interesting?
It always been like that.
Interesting. Well, it's because you're going with you're right. You're going with a different lens into your client's home and thinking, oh, you're going to have problems with this or you're going to have problems with that. And then I think it's because it's so personal.
I don't know. Yeah, that could very well be it. And that the coffee table and the sofa, she couldn't get her walker close enough. So she would leave a walker on the other side of the room and like bend over 90 degrees and holding on and walking through a little space, to sit on the sofa and then go boom, because the sofa was so low. And then trying to struggle. I'm like, then one day I just walked in there with my therapist lens on and I'm like, Ma, this is just not working. And I wasn't, I didn't even use my skills that I know. I was just like, Mom, we got to move this table. We got to do this. I'm moving rugs.
Yes.
So you came in like a wrecking ball, like me.
But you know what? I think I did it I think just going back to my childhood came out. Like for so many years, that's just how we talk to each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She didn't ask us questions. She like tell us what to do and accuse one sister. We were like, we had a very lively childhood. I'm just going to say that.
I like that word.
Nice words.
That's how we talk
That
about
was
it.
lively.
We had lively, and it was good. My mom was a single mom, and she protected us. I'm telling you, we had to go in groups everywhere. So we were, and just the language that we had. And I think all of that just came back out. And I'm just like, do this and do that. And then my mom's like, you don't tell me what to do. You're my daughter.
There it goes.
Yes.
You're
same
my
words.
daughter. Do
And
not tell me what to do.
Yes.
Finger point.
Yes. And I can see that now, how I didn't approach it the right way with my mom. So when I say we were too much alike, I think if I had approached it a little bit kindly, she would have been a little bit more receptive to that. But it's like when my eyes opened and I saw that rug in the kitchen on top of a slick floor, the rug had no backing, and I'm like, Mom, you got to move this rug. This is why you are falling in the kitchen. And just not softening that and really going in there and telling her what to do. It started, I think, her being so defensive toward me.
So I'm curious, how would you have said that to a patient, Consuela, if somebody had a rug like that? What would you have done? What would have been done differently if you'd had a patient that was like that?
And it's going to be dependent on who's living with them and everything. I'm in the mode. And if they were my mom, I'm like, okay, I've done my little assessment. I got my computer and I'm just like taking all my tick marks. Okay, I'm like, look, there's a couple of things that I think are quick fixes, but I want you to think about this. I mean, it's no big deal. And I try to tamper it just like that.
Yeah.
You see the rug by your stove? If you step on it the right way, and I'll go in and demonstrate, I'm like, woo, you see what can happen?
Okay.
Or I'll go get their walker and I would get in and I'm like, you see what happens? Say, does this ever happen when you're in here? And they would say, yeah or no. I'm like, that's how you fall. So look, don't have to move it, but I'm just going to let you know if you leave it there, that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
But
little more
and
kindness,
we'll talk about
genteel.
It later.
Okay.
So it's just really saying it softly with them. I didn't have that with my mom. I think I went in and just hit her with a bulldozer. And it I think it set the tone for our relationship.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So here's the thing. I know that you had mentioned us in another conversation that you got to this point and your mom had been falling and she would be in the home by herself for a window of time and she could lay in the floor for hours. And so what was the breaking point where you said, I'm going to move her in with me?
Dun, dun, dun.
We had attempted several times. The falls were coming. And we did not know her doctor was already telling her, if you fall one more time, you're going into the nursing home. Although they could technically not have done it because she was able to make her own decisions.
Yeah. Right.
They were threatening her, but she wasn't telling that. And my sisters, I did not know, we're not going into the room with my mom in the back.
Ooh, that's important.
I didn't know that. I'm like, but y'all went to the doctor with her? Well, we don't go in the back. She won't let us go in the back. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all are not going in the back. Why are y'all going if you're not going in the back? So I was just like, I didn't know the whole picture. And that's what I'm going to say with caregivers. You can think you know it all. And I thought my sisters had it all. They were doing the best they could. I'm going to tell you with what they knew and how my mom is and how my mom can really shut down and not talk to you for 3 years if you say the wrong thing to her. They didn't want that. And they had to walk eggshells around her. But, in a sense, they just knew, don't go there with mom because she ain't going to listen.
You got to survive.
When I knew things had to change I was getting these phone calls. Girl, this is my sisters. Girl, mom was on the floor last night. She called me and I had to go over there and get her up. I'm like, but could you get her up? Like, yeah, I got her up. So that was the thing. as long as they were getting her up, she was like, okay. And I think most of it, she was sliding off of the sofa, trying to get up and couldn't, and just slid to the floor. So they weren't really, they were falls, but she wasn't hurting herself. But then the falls started happening when she couldn't get up. And my sister would call me, like she reluctantly gave one a key to her house. It was just like getting in Fort Knox, but they got a key to her house and found her on the floor. She said she wasn't there that long, but who knows? Nobody could ever tell. My mom didn't really always say what was really going on. But when they could no longer get her up and then had to start calling the husband, and the husband was getting tired, they started calling me. And then she was trying to call neighbors to get her up so nobody would, her whole plan was falling apart, and she was drowning, and she was getting more desperate because she really wanted to stay in her house. Yeah. But the decision with me was when I told them, stop calling me. I cannot do anything about it. I have had that conversation with my mama. She doesn't want to leave her house. So get caregivers. They did. She fired him because she didn't want anybody sitting there watching her. They don't do anything. They just watching me. I'm like, well, you need to be watched. You need to be watched because you're going to fall on the floor. Yeah. She didn't see any value in that, so she would fire them. I'm like, well, give them something to do. But they're going to put my stuff where I'm not going to find it. I need all of my stuff. I want all of my stuff. That girl came in here yesterday, and I know I had my stuff right here. She going to call herself cleaning up, and she moved all of my stuff, and then she gets mad and fires her.
Yes.
I think that is a very common thing, more than people will ever want to admit. Yeah. That your parent fires a lot of people to hide. It sounds like a lot of like hiding, because I think it's, they know that they need support. It's the inevitable, but the loss. So you stop driving, you need someone to be with you all the time. And it's that loss of independence. Yeah. And ultimately you're aging, and is it the fear of death kind of like it's coming? Yeah. And to answer your question, to get quickly to that, because y'all give me my cues, okay? Let's move in. Let's move into your house. Okay. So when it's like, we're not doing this anymore, don't call me. She had been on the floor several times, and I'm like, okay, nice to know that. Hope she's okay. Bye. Don't call me in the middle of the night crying, because I'm not fazed by it anymore. I'm like, I can't do anything about it. These are her choices. But the moment came when it was no longer. She was starting to hurt herself. She was starting to have a lot of back pain. It's just physically, it was evident that arthritis was sort of taking over, and she was having a lot of mobility issues. And my sister was now trying to really telling me about some tidiness and some hygiene issues that were really becoming evident. Yeah. So they were all on the phone after this big fall, and she went to the emergency room. So then I'm up there, and I'm like, you're not going back home. Yeah. But we didn't really have a plan. So she had to come back home, because we did not have a plan. Other than, you ain't going home, but I couldn't like get her from the hospital and take her here. So we actually had to get her back home, get therapists there, and sort of get her better while we making a plan. But as she got better with the therapist, she fought again. And I'm better. I don't need to go anywhere. But I'm gonna fast forward till one day her plans were just not working, and she was here. Yeah. And in the meantime, you all, I had started preparing, because I'm thinking, this is expensive. I hear these stories all the time. My mom doesn't qualify for Medicaid. She can't have nursing home placement. And really, I don't want my mom in a nursing home. I think I can take care of my own mom. Yeah. I mean, my house is totally accessible. I mean, really, my house was accessible from the bathrooms, just from my daughter's needs. Everything. When we built even the kitchen where just everything where she could cook. Right. Everything. Because I don't like to cook. I'm like, I got to make sure this kitchen is set up, because she's got to get to the stove. She's got to get to technically, my daughter doesn't walk. Yeah. Not even today. Yeah. But everything else, drives, college grad, just everything, and cooks and cleans. And I'm like, I can, that's the part of my life I like to keep private, but I do share bits of it. But just in saying that, my house was accessible for my mom in a drop of a hat to come live with me, but she didn't want to. She wanted to live with my sister.
I won't say she was a favorite because I don't really know if she was my mom, if she was the favorite. She was just definitely more compassionate. She catered to my mom's needs. She allowed herself to be manipulated by my mom, which is not a bad thing.
We're all like,
I think
My sister
manipulation-
Consuela, JJ is on the top left corner of my screen, and
He's at the
Emily is
bottom,
clearly at the bottom. And JJ is above Emily, and we're both pointing at the same direction.
Consuela, she calls me JJ probably 50% of the time. And I'm like, listen, your favorite is not here.
Yes.
So,
It is because, and you just hit the nail on the head.
So look, I don't know if I'm
easily manipulated. Like
Yes.
I live
She's
in the world
weak.
of. I'm not weak. I
you know
live
what?
in the world of
I'm
guilt.
hesitant to say even manipulated. Manipulated could be like you didn't know it was going on. My sister was well aware of my mom's tendencies, and she allowed it.
Was she guilty? Because all I did was live in the world of guilt. Like if I don't take care of her, let her do what she wants. I was like,
I think it was my sister's way of giving back to my mom. Look, my mom always thought my sister was going to go to Texas to go to school, graduate, and come back and live with her. Well, you meet husbands in college and you never come back. But
that's right, girl.
And it broke my mom's heart that my sister did not come back. To be with her. And there was always this reunion, I think, wanting to happen. Okay. And so she just knew my sister was going to say, come on to Houston, you can live with me.
No.
So she moves in with you.
You got her.
You got and then what
kicking
happened?
Kicking and screaming. And I'm going to tell you, I was going to say that I knew I had to come up with a plan. So I opened a personal care home. So I don't even share a lot about that, but I did. And just saying, I can't afford this. I have to work. I have kids in school. And my mom wasn't totally needy. And then I did have my daughter who was still here. She could be eyes and ears. I mean, look, she was actually a big part of the caregiving because my mom listened to her. My daughter can go in there and talk to my mom. She said, Mom, you were being mean to mom, saying mean. All she was in here doing was trying to help you, and you just lashed out at her. And then I hear my mom like, well, she ought to know. And she would just go, and then my daughter would just talk to her. And when I couldn't get my mom to eat anything because she thought I just couldn't cook. I don't like to cook, but I can cook. I just don't. I think it's a waste of my time. I could be doing something else besides cooking. But that's a different cast. But so she just didn't listen to me, and she just wouldn't take, going back to the past. I was not the one to present any messages to my mom because we were too much alike. Right. So I prepared for my mom, and I thought, so as I opened my business, I had other residents coming in, and they're just living in a 6-bed care room. And as the beds were filling up, I kept saying, no, this room is taken. I kept the biggest room for my mom. And it actually, I just sort of hung out during there, and that sort of became my sort of office and made it work for me until my mom came. Yeah. And then when my mom came, she came kicking and screaming. I had told all the other residents, my mom is coming this week, and y'all, she's finally here. We had been talking about it for about 2 years at this point. And when she came, my mom was so mad. She wouldn't talk to the residents. I don't need to be here with these other old people. And I had a whole schedule of what time is breakfast. I mean, the whole schedule. The state makes you have everything. Of course. It's not like I open my doors of a house and I'm just rolling people in and y'all just do what you want. I mean, I had care plans. I did everything according to the board. And I had my menus. I had 60 days of menus, and look, I need those menus. I need to go up in the attic and find them. And I had routine. Breakfast starts at this time. If you're going to bathe in the morning when the girl comes, you're going to bathe at this time. If you prefer to bathe at night, the nighttime girl would bathe you at night. Right. Mom didn't want to be told what to do, and it just became such a struggle to get her to fit in to the groove. So actually at one point it was just like, take her to my house, just take her to my house and just let me deal with her there because she's making it so difficult here.
Wow. And you really, in your heart, I feel like maybe one of the purposes of that home, you had so much hope that it would work.
It was all for her. That was the whole thing. I didn't need anything else to do.
Yeah.
Although I really enjoyed doing it and it was very rewarding financially, everything. And still have tons of friends right now from those same families that we can stand and talk for ages about all the fun things that we did for the holidays with them and everything. And how they knew I hated to cook.
So did you eventually move her out?
No, but I moved everybody else out.
Yeah.
It just became so hard for me to do till I'm like, you know what, this is not working. I'm shutting it down.
Yeah. So you had to choose that, like caregiving.
But at this point, it's been open about 7-8 years and it's just really enjoying it. Wow. But at the same time, my kids are growing and my attention is divided. I'm over the crisis of needing something to do with my mom. And really, I'm getting into the end of what I can do for her because it was really becoming so difficult. And her whole goal was she doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
Not once did she change her mind. It was not once that
7 years
seven years that the business was here.
But she still didn't want to be there. How long has she been there?
Oh, now she's passed away now, but I want to say, I don't know. I would say about 4 years she was actually a resident of the facility.
Yeah.
And over the time, just adding new residents have passed away, get new residents, but my mom was always there.
Yeah.
She did, get some friendships with one of the people who were there, but and she settled in when she really knew I'm not going back home.
Yeah.
My struggle and what made it difficult to me is that I felt rejected the rejection I was feeling, that I've given so much up. The expense of buying this home, this was a house, and totally getting it renovated by going through all of the inspection process, coming up with all of the policies and procedures and the marketing and all of this was really based on my mom's needs.
Yeah.
And then for her not to even want to be here was really just a dagger that I struggled with. And along the way, issues with just being able to get away, not from the business. If I wanted to get away, I really could get away, and the people who were working for me, my mom came with the thing, but it was always more complicated than that. It was always I had to make allowances for the people that were residents and then my mom. You understand? Because my mom was like a different package.
Yeah,
she could. It's like I always needed to have. It was just another element there that made it so much more challenging. For me.
Well, that's what, Consuela, that's true, because when Emily wants to take a break or go away, the issues that we find, because JJ and I are long distance, we're farther away, is that you can schedule somebody, and we have to schedule for mom, but what's the backup plan to the backup plan in case the caregiver doesn't show up? And then it totally ruins the plan. And when they don't show up, because services can be unreliable more times than not, I think, Emily, you would probably say they're unreliable.
Correct.
But Consuela, when you went away, and Emily, what the impact when you go away, like what are the ramifications when you come back?
Yes, ramifications.
Like, mom, you kind of feel, I don't know whether you feel guilty, but mom is almost angry when you've gone away.
Yeah. If I'm not there, she wanted another sister there. That's sort of the thing. She didn't belong here. So why am I leaving her here with that girl? Yeah. The girl always had a name, but every worker that I had was that girl.
That girl.
Why are you leaving me here with that girl? And I sort of felt like she was most comfortable with having one of the siblings here.
Yeah.
And there were three of us that shared in that. And they did what they could. I can honestly say I have no animosity toward any of my sisters. They showed up in their own different ways, and they both had, and they all had their purposes. One was the lotion potion girl that massaged my mom from head to toe. I didn't do any of that. I didn't have time. I'm like, slap, slap, rub, rub, get it dry, put it on. It'll soak in lotion. You know, it's just like, I did it. I just went through the motions and put it on because I did it. You know what? I didn't have to dress my mom in the morning, but I wanted to be that one that, okay, I'm waking up. Let me go over there and get mom up. I think I put that responsibility on myself, where I had a caregiver and she did, but she knew I was coming to do my own mom. Yeah. So I would come over and I would do my mom, get her up and get her dressed. And I look back now, I'm like, I think I tortured myself because I could never do it right. You're rolling me too hard. You missed the spot. You being rough on me. And I think I was just longing for her approval, in addition to wanting to make sure she was cared for. And although I did know the other girl would do it. And sometimes she would say, Miss Consuela, don't come home. Don't come over here. I got your mom. And that was really good too, when she would say, your mom already up in the chair, so you don't even have to come. So she would actually have my mom up in the chair and in the kitchen and eating breakfast, versus if I went over there, it was a battle because I had to tiptoe around what are the things that my mom wanted me to do. Hey, look, I'm saying this in the beginning, but I got easier. It got easier as I really had to look at it through a different lens. So and that's why I want to say with caregivers, don't take as long as I took to get to where I needed to be. Because on the other side of that, we did have some good times when I did have to let it go and walk through the door and go in, and my mom was already dressed and up in the chair. And I'm like, hi, Mom, how'd it go this morning? It's all right. And then I'll be like, okay. And just sit there and just have conversation with her versus having to go through all of those fights that I would have had gone through because I felt like I was obligated to take care of my mom in a certain way, instead of letting go and letting the people that I had hired to run the place and me not try to be there.
Do you think some of that?
I've been on a rabbit trail with y'all. I know y'all can cut me.
No, it's fine. No,
some of that.
So this is going to be like 2 episodes. I can feel it.
But so some of that, I'll ask this, Consuela. Some of that, do you think it was because that relationship improved because you said, you know what, it's good enough? Like you kind of let it go. Like when you said, I'm not going to go dress her, I'm going to walk in and she's in the chair and what I'm doing it's good enough.
You know what? I don't think I made the decision. Someone helped me make the decision.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I could be in the bed and telling my husband, I got to get up. I got to go over there and get mom up. And he'd be like, that's why you got work. I'm like, no, but I got to, you know how mama is. She ain't going to act right with those girls. So let me get up and go. And I would get up over and over and over and go get my mom. And I'm not saying my mom was horrible every time, but I think I was putting myself under a lot of stress to make her say, I want to be here with you. You're doing a great job, daughter.
Did she ever say it?
No.
Yeah, you're not going to get it.
Emily, I think Emily says that out of probably experience that we probably realize that you may not ever get it.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't.
But
from her, but I do know I received it. I received it from the person who's giving me the reason why I needed to do it.
Yeah.
And who's giving me the strength to do it. And I had to put it back in his hands on how to do it. And that's the whole premise of finding a foothold. You may feel in your heart you need to do something to care for your parents, but then the waters get really muggy when you don't stay balanced in how. The how is where everybody falls off the surfboard, falls off the track is in the how. So everything that I said to her now, if y'all can just cut and edit and just like throw it out the window, this is really the meat. You can want to care for your loved ones because this is this thing put in your heart. And I can say, I didn't put it in my heart. I did not wake up and say, because, for me, I could say, I've had my years of caregiving because it was rough raising my daughter and finding a path for her and helping her find her way and and balancing the marriage and all of that during these young years when we thought, okay, child number 2, this is going to be easy because we've had number 1 and it didn't go anything like that. And we were all in the marriage, like almost like, why? Why us? But it had made such a strong marriage. When I tell you, and I'm going to say this, you can't do this without a husband. You can. But for me, it would have been so difficult because he's the one who kept me sane.
I would agree with that.
Who kept me, I don't want to say out of jail because I didn't ever want to break the law.
My husband keeps me out of jail.
But I thought the thought because it made me feel good, but I know it was just the bad part of me, like, ooh, if I could, And I've had her threaten because she would throw this number on me. I wish I was dead.
Oh,
that's what she would tell me.
We get that one too.
So put me in hospice. That's what she says. That's put me in hospice. Just go ahead and call hospice. Mom, we don't live in a state where we're allowed to just, basically do euthanasia for the youth. We can't put you down. We can't take you to the vet.
Drop me off at skilled nursing.
That's true. We either drop her off at the vet or the nursing. Just drop me off at the nursing home, girls.
Just take me now.
And my mom would just, whenever I didn't do anything that, the way she wanted, was like, I wish I was dead. And then one day I was just not in the frame of mind and I was fixing her bed and I was doing things and just getting her turned and rotated. And I had this pillow in my hand. I said, Mom, what you say? I wish I was dead. Because she knew that would get to me. I would leave the room like, Mom, don't say that. So I just had the pillow in my hand, y'all, and God is my witness. I just laid it on her face like that, and I folded my hands like that. And she went, blah, 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 blah. She was just like, just like threw the pillow, and I'm like, don't ever say that to me again, Mom. Please don't ever say that to me again. Do you know how much that hurts? And she looked at me.
Oh, it does.
I said, Mom, what were you thinking when I put that? I thought you was going to kill me. I said, Mom, I would never do that. But do you know how that feels when you tell me keep bringing that up when I don't, like, Mom, it's time to get out of bed. And she gets mad, I wish I was dead. I'm like, don't ever say that again.
Yeah.
Your wish might come true.
True.
And so, not from you. I don't think that's
not
your
from
heart.
Me. I never would have done that.
You've been
I just like, Ma, that was just one of those things that she would do because she knew it.
Well, she got a rise out of you.
That was the button.
She was going to get teary, and she knew I was going to be angry the rest of the day because I didn't do something that she wanted to do.
I always try to hit it with humor when she, will say those things. And I'm like, I wish I was dead. I'm like, honey, not today. We're all going to die, but not today. And that really kind of zips it pretty fast.
It sounds like, because we want to get to our sister questions.
Yeah.
And so, because I really, again, there's so much more to unpack. This is so good. I
don't know about good, but I got
no, you know what? This is so, when I say this is so good, it's so authentic. Yes. It's so authentic because I think this happens in so many families and no one wants to talk about that, it's just so flipping hard some days. I've walked in to see my mom before and she looks at me and she says, "Where's JJ?" And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, you have not seen me in a year and you say, "Where's JJ?" I could beat you to death right now. And I'm like, hold on, Mom, let me go find the second coming. Jesus's younger sibling.
I know that we want to jump in and get the sister question, but I have one thing that Consuela told us, because one thing in our first call, Consuela, and it was that, the relationship wasn't perfect and you didn't always think that everybody saw that. And I know for our listeners, your mom did pass away, of course, but there was something that happened at your mom's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
That Pinky was everybody, everybody thought Pinky was perfect.
Yeah, her funeral was hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I was steaming hot, mad.
Yep.
A lot had transpired in the end with her going to the nursing home, and some anger, or not some anger, just some disappointments from some sisters that I made that transition. But I waited and I held on, just thinking that, the day's coming, and then it was just, I'm going to pass through that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is just the good times of where she wanted to be and to enjoy life before she got so in pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those years had passed till it wasn't going to even be enjoyable to make that move. And to make that move at that point would have just, it was to feel that need of the sister versus allowing my mom to really enjoy those final years with that. Not that my sister did anything wrong, because this was my mom's story in my mom's head.
Right.
And I do believe I was the one that was supposed to do what was being done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't meant for my sister to do it, but my mom didn't believe that. She had
But it was something that your pastor said.
But then at the funeral, everybody was giving the accolades, and I knew some of it was true. And look, some of it was like fresh for me because I had forgotten a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Being bogged down with the rejection every day of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I can't even blame that on my mom. See, I'm going to tell you how much growth is. Before, I always thought my mom made me feel rejected. I made myself feel rejected because I wasn't doing it the way that it was supposed to be done. I didn't let go of that need to get her approval until much later.
Yeah.
And once I got that, I will tell you, there was going to be a period, even when she was in the nursing home, that I felt this freedom, and I went up there and we had good times.
Yeah.
Where we had these times where we could laugh about things and little jokes while me sitting next to her bed that I wasn't doing when she was in the home with me. But at the funeral, it was just like everybody was saying a lot of good things, and they were asking if anybody else wanted to say anything. And I had sisters that actually were bold enough to get up and talk and wipe away the tears and say good things about my mom. Number one, I didn't have anything to say.
Right.
It was hard. And I was sort of angry at myself that, girl, why don't you have anything good to say? And I just couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything. It was just so depressing, pushed down, that I really didn't think I had anything I needed to say. Did I hate my mom? No. Did I wish she was right there in the coffin? No. But I was just numb. I didn't have anything I wanted to say. And then, but I was starting to get angry because everybody had all these little stories about how wonderful she was. And I'm like, I was confused. I was just like, Then the pastor, he got up and talked. And I was just had my head down because I had some tears, but it was just not out of sorrow. It was just that I was sort of now getting mad that everybody was saying how wonderful my mom was. And the pastor just stated that, I've heard all of these things, and everybody knows how good Miss Pinky was. And that's what they called her, Miss Pinky, or Sister Pinky at church. And my mom was a part of every little organization. And there was enough of us till she just self-appointed one of us to do something in each organization. Girl, go help over there. So I was like helping over there. So all of us sisters were like really involved in the church because it was a small church and they needed hands and feet. So my mom self-appointed us to different organizations, and that's what we did in the church. And we enjoyed it. That was our whole life. Church was our whole life growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful for it now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just our life, and it's what we did. But the pastor was saying, but I have a feeling there's another part of this that needs to be talked about. And I'm like, my eye went up, and I'm like, And he just said, you know what? I'm sure things were rough in the end. And he just started describing the life of a caregiver. And I'm like, wow. Oh my gosh, what is this pastor saying? And he just said, we have to know that, all of these sisters, and he didn't know anything. I hadn't seen this man since I moved and got married. And anyway, but he was part of the church then, and he was still part of the church. And he just started saying about how he was proud of all of the daughters for really being there and being there for his mom, that there is nobody showing up that hadn't been in her life. And that was thing. He said, but I want to say, who was taking care of her? And he just started talking about the caregiving roles that I know it had to be hard. As angelic as Miss Pinky sound, I'm pretty sure you had some rough times. And I think I lost it then because I knew it was God's way of putting like a stamp that I did okay.
You know what? That's exactly right. Because God knew what you needed to hear. Yeah. And so did that pastor.
Yeah. And for me, like I see Emily for the listeners, and I wish that you could see me because I have these tears in my eyes, Consuela. And the reason is because that's why we do it. And I think that regardless, if you don't get that approval that you always seek, at some point, there is that light, there is that, hey, you did a good job, faithful one. Like, I think that's there.
I think it is, it wasn't a struggle. Let me tell you, I think the struggles that my mom had was to develop me.
Yeah.
It was to develop me. I had the physical skills. Look, I can get my mom in and out of that chair and lower her and just do it. So I had to, because she would thought I was throwing her in the chair. You throwing me like a sack of potatoes is what she would say. If she even felt anything, it did craft my skills. It gave me patience for her. But I was driven by the wrong things. I was driven by the satisfaction of having her say, oh, you're doing so good. When I should have been like leaning into the why I'm even doing it. Why I'm doing it because I think I'm called to do it. And I think I have everything that I'm supposed to have, I'm going to have along the way. It's going to be developed. It's going to be there because it's going to come from with me. It's going to be birthed through me in the process of caring for her. I did learn that, you all. I did learn to let go. I did learn to, somebody had a quote and on Instagram last night till I think I wrote a paragraph on it that, that talked about that, about just how to say humble and calm, even, and not put up with crap. And but keeping stay within your boundaries, staying humble and calm, but don't put up with crap. And when they didn't say crap, they said the other word. But that's exactly what I had to learn. Yeah, put up with her crap, stay humble, stay calm with her, but don't fudge on what I know I'm called to do and the how I'm called to do it. I did learn that. She just was never happy. And I should have just stuck with that. Do what I'm called to do, whether she is happy or not. And that was the component I want caregivers to know. They don't have to like it, but you don't have to become crappy. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be disrespectful, but you've got to be firm in what you're going to do and you're not going to do, and stick to it and live your life, or you're going to lose yourself in the process because you're trying to change the emotions of somebody that may never change. And I had to get there.
That, you know what?
That is everything.
You are amazing.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not even going to go to sister questions. I'm going to end it right there because that in itself, what you've just shared is the money. That is what people need to hear. That's what I mean by like, this is so good because it's so authentic and true. And people need to not put this mask, take off your mask of perfection and this need for acceptance. And
she's got the sisters crying right here.
Oh Lord. Like everybody can't see the crying. The crying sisters is amazing. Jay, why don't you why don't you close this out? Because I think we're going to have Consuela back. I want to have Consuela
yeah.
back and have another episode.
Well, we do just want to thank Consuela because you are amazing. And
you're a blessing is what you are.
Yeah, she is a blessing. And thank you. And thank our listeners for checking in with us because we are so blessed to have all of them. And we are blessed to call Consuela a friend and a sister.
She is an honorary sister.
Honorary sister.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, Consuela.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Consuela.
Mhm.